I had a very traumatic experience in this leadership role where I just suffered a lot of just verbal abuse from some of the people that I was working with. And it was something I needed to let go of and heal from. And then the ayahuasca, my first round of ayahuasca sessions in Peru helped me heal from that trauma. Welcome to the Shamanic Tonic podcast, where we explore various shamanic concepts and other energy healing modalities with the intention of being able to practically apply these concepts in everyday life to feel more empowered, heart opened, and centered. Hey, everybody, I'm Rise, and I'm here with Lisa. Welcome to this episode of Rise and Shine Shamanic Tonic. In this episode, we're just simply gonna talk about the recent conference I went to, and that conference was called the Awakening Conference 2024 in Los Angeles, and that was held by the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles. But before that, Lisa, what type of shamanic tonic are you drinking today?
Mine is simple today. It's some green ginger tea, and I put in a dropper full of marusa and some honey. I just recently made a new friend who lives in Maui and raises honeybees.
Oh, nice.
He brought me some honey, so I've been enjoying that.
Some fresh honey. Where'd you
Mhm.
get the Marusa from? Is it from Eye Healing Retreats or?
Yeah.
Oh,
From
okay. Cool.
Chris. hmm
Nice.
Yeah.
Today I've got chamomile, keeping it simple. I've got a drop of ayahuasca in there, a drop of Noya Rao, and a drop of rose. Those are sort of like my go-to daily plant medicines that I like to connect with, you know. Just a
Beautiful.
tiny bit just to have that connection. So
Their presence. Mm,
salute.
very good. Salud.
Yeah. Yeah,
Tell
so
me.
this
I'm so
what?
ex- I'm so excited to hear all about it.
Yeah, so I went to that conference a couple weeks ago, and it was beautiful. It was a bunch of different organizations that serve or are connected to plant medicines. And I think they're all local within the Los Angeles area. And there was lots of talks and there's a lot of music. One of the talks I caught had to do with, one of them had to do with Bufo. Another one had to do with ayahuasca. And one of them, this may be right up your alley, had to do with um, plant medicines and sexuality.
Hmm.
There was like an entire panel of that. So it was really cool and
Ooh,
interesting to hear. The one that I attended or was more engaged in was by our mutual friend who held a session having to do with ayahuasca and integration.
mhm.
Yeah, integration and leadership actually. So we talked about experiences with our past and how the plant medicine might have affected our experiences with leadership. So I just talked about how at work, in one job, I had a lot of trauma, and the medicine helped me heal from that trauma while I was in that leadership role.
Mhm.
So yeah, it went
So
pretty
what
deep.
so much that it helped you with your leadership? You're saying that when you were in the leadership role, it helped you heal other aspects of your life.
Yeah, it helped me heal. Well, I had a very traumatic experience in this leadership role where I just suffered a lot of just verbal abuse from some of the people that I was working with. And it was something I needed to it was something I needed to let go of and heal from. And then the ayahuasca, my first round of ayahuasca sessions in Peru helped me heal from that trauma. So that's what happened. But I think our mutual friend, he is planning a plant medicine leadership retreat specifically for leaders, and I think he's gonna have that in Mexico.
Well, it's interesting because I've heard more than several times people saying just kind of off the cuff, like, I think there should be a guideline where anyone who's going to run for political office
Yeah,
needs to work with
right.
other first, right?
Yeah,
And it's like, yeah, there's something to that.
yeah,
Is that part of the idea? Like, if you're going to be in a leadership role, meet the grandmother and
yeah.
yeah.
I think so. Like get heart connected. You really want that alignment between the heart and the mind.
Mhm.
So then they're working together. So let's say you're making policy or you're managing a team. You can lead that team from a more heart-centered place.
I
So
love
I
it.
thought it was really cool that they did that
That's fantastic. Did they
at a
have these
conference.
talks, like, are they available to the public after the fact at all, or?
I don't think they recorded them, especially that session that was in the room, where it was more of a sharing circle, people just sharing their experiences with leadership, either as a leader or with various leaders, and how plant medicines might be able to improve those situations. So,
I'm also
um,
curious, right? Like you said, most of the organizations were local,
yeah.
but given that ayahuasca is not legalized in California,
So most of the organizations, a lot of them they weren't offering ayahuasca. Some of them were, maybe like one or two. Some of
even
them
expose
were,
themselves, even talk about it, is to expose themselves as doing that. So,
yeah, yeah. Some of them were offering other sacred plant medicines, such as sacred mushrooms. And again, I think how that how they're operating as churches.
mhm,
So as they're operating as churches, they're then able to serve medicine to people. And
mhm,
it was cool to just go to the different tables. They each had their own table, and I just went to go talk to them, and it was cool to just be able to hear their values and what their views on the medicine were.
mhm.
So
About how many people were in attendance?
I want to say maybe, I'm not good at counting people. At
Yeah,
least 100, maybe 100
it's
to,
not that big. Yeah,
yeah,
that
it's 200. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Did you say that you thought that was big or not big?
No, I mean, like, I go to conferences for
Yeah.
G plus and, there'll be 4,000 to
Yeah,
12.
exactly. Yeah.
It would be like 10,000 plus. Now it's like, I don't know for sure, but like 3,000. So 100 to 200 sounds like a good number, but also kind of intimate. Also,
Yeah, it was kind of intimate where you start to be able to meet a lot of the people, and it was cool because I was able to just connect with a lot of people in the community,
yeah.
even just the local community around here. I didn't know that there were different groups or organizations that were interested in this type of path, just really close to me, actually. And I'm hoping that the people I met, these connections bloom into friendships,
Yeah, I'm sure.
because I feel like that's what I'm missing
Mm,
in my daily life, is just that sense of community,
hmm.
because it's not that common, right? That
Right.
somebody, I mean, just like us, we're friends. We spent like a month in the jungle, learning shamanic practices and learning about the different medicines. I mean, that's it's not very common at all,
No.
So And just to be able to meet those people, I felt like it was such a blessing,
Yeah.
you know?
I
So,
I hear you. I find, well, I'm going back in January, but also I've gotten involved in the ISTA community, which is the Institute for the wait, International School of Temple Arts, which
mhm.
involves a lot of shamanism. But I just really like, I look forward to these experiences so much because I just want to be around people who are so open and vulnerable and real.
Yeah,
Straight
absolutely.
up. And once you have that in your life, it's like, and so I'm working on building more of that community in my area, a little bit. So
Yeah.
it's great to tap into it. But yeah, there's definitely a different quality about the people you spend time with.
Yeah, just on an energetic level, ideas why, idea wise, um, and just like you said, the openness, like I was talking to this one gentleman and I had shared my childhood trauma, and instead of just, being like sad about it or feeling that he felt sorry for me, we had like a really deep conversation about it for maybe half an hour to an hour,
Hmm.
and that's just something that I haven't experienced with other people. In fact, like other people who, let's say people at work, like if I were just to mention something like that, not that I would, but maybe, or somebody that I would meet outside of the community, I'd mention it, and I could see like the physical visible discomfort that that person would go through just by hearing that, because it's not something that's normally talked about, in everyday life.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. Like I think about the first time we met in the airport, and we pretty much dove into some deeper
We
conversation.
did.
And
Yeah.
what's interesting is that that was before we had worked with plant medicine together, but knowing that we were, and knowing that each other had already done that kind of work
Yeah.
in itself opens up a door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We were able to hold space for each other, our each of our different experiences, and that's how you and I connected,
Yeah.
right? But again, folks that I've met in, um let's say just like through mutual friends, we'll be hanging out at like a cafe or something. I'll bring it up and the conversation will literally just go nowhere,
Yeah.
and that person will just try to change it to something else, because I think for a lot of people, talking about traumas and trying to heal from them is very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It's not done. And I wonder if there's a little bit of shame and guilt, tied to talking about those things, where it's like, oh, we're not supposed to talk about that kind of stuff, let's just talk about happy stuff. I don't know, you know?
Yeah, some people are like that, like you just don't talk about that stuff. And it could be that, their shadow is coming up big time and hearing it, and
Yeah.
they're not ready to meet it.
Yeah, yeah, but I just super thankful for all the friends that I made there, and everybody was able to hold that type of space, whenever I mentioned it, and
Mhm.
I was amazed. I was like, wow, I didn't know that this community actually existed, in this area.
It's wonderful.
So it just kind of blew my mind, and just super thankful.
Kind
And
of,
there's Oh,
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say there's other people who offer different services, right? Like, there were lots of like tarot readers, people doing readings for other people, and there's other medicines I've never actually thought I'd encounter. Somebody has a service where they offered Amanita muscaria. Have you heard of that? That
Mhm.
it's like when most folks think about sacred mushrooms, I think they think about like that mushroom with a red cap on
Mhm.
there, it's sort of like iconic.
Yeah.
But so most sacred mushrooms have psilocybin, right? So Amanita muscaria, I think has a different medicine in it. So it's a completely different experience. Uh,
Interesting.
Yeah, it was cool. It
So
was so diverse.
what are you, besides building community, what are some of your like biggest takeaways of things that you learned
Um,
you think you might introduce into your life with leadership, or I don't know.
yeah, so I feel like, I mean, I think community was the biggest one because, for example, one of the musicians, I had gone to a show or a concert the day before,
Mm-hmm.
and it was in a different city that was a couple hours away. And I had seen a certain musician, and he rocked it at that show. And then that same musician was at the conference
Cool.
that I was at, and I was like, what are the chances that seeing the same guy
Mhm.
2 days in a row, in two different venues, and I was like, okay, well the community must be very small, in order for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just that connection, or maybe the energetic ties within the community are that strong where like the same people just keep crossing paths.
Yeah, it'll probably happen more and more for you now.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I was there and I already knew two of the speakers. Like I knew our mutual friend, and then when I went there, I looked at the program. I was like, "Oh, I know two other people who are speaking here." And I've had different really powerful life experiences with them, whether enjoying a day at the park with them or uh, holding ceremony with them, holding space or playing music with them. And it was really cool and refreshing to be able to see them just
Yeah.
randomly. And I guess it wasn't random, right? Like nothing really is random, but just to reconnect with them
Yeah.
and stuff. So
Isn't it an annual event?
it's an annual event. Yeah.
Okay, well,
So
I'll have to make an effort for next year.
yeah,
Same
yeah,
time.
and maybe our mutual friend will keep talking,
Right.
there, and then we could all just hang out and connect.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's one thing to experience each other's company and ceremony, right, and form those bonds. But then it's also nice to be able to hang, like you and I, we hung outside of ceremony. We
Well,
uh,
that's the point too, really, right? I mean,
yeah,
ceremony is an amazing experience in and of itself and all the time that surrounds it, but the point is really about how we integrate into our daily life and what
exactly.
we do with it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and you never know what type of magic comes from that.
right.
Like you and I are doing this podcast. This Friday, I'm gonna go check out, somebody from that community had invited me to a full moon ceremony
Mhm.
tonight, and I'm gonna go check that out where they have a monk visiting from Tibet, an artist monk, and he's gonna play music and he's gonna lead us through ceremony. And I think that if I'm not mistaken, there may be cacao, maybe. I know two different traditions, right? Cacao is from South America, and you know um and the monk is from Tibet. But I don't know,
Yeah,
like just
great.
magic happens,
That's
I guess, is
awesome.
my point. So
Magic happens.
yeah, yeah, magic happens. So overall I feel like it was just a great, wonderful experience. And if it happens again, just maybe you can just come into town and we can go together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put it on my, so it's usually in October.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All
So
right.
great.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I've got to say about that.
Thank you for
If
sharing.
you guys are in town for the next Awakening conference held by the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles, come check it out. Just a wonderful community that they're building through this conference.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep. Thank you. And before we end this podcast, Lisa, where can people find you?
Uh, the best place is my website, sacredexploration.com. I've got events listed there and books and little bit about me and all that. I'm also on Instagram _imperfectlyvegan_.
Okay,
That's, yeah.
great. Yeah, so go please check out Lisa and her sites, and people can find me at rishasanctuary.com, and on Instagram that is risha_sanctuary. That's the handle on Instagram. So that's the end of this podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate you. We'll see you later.